However, it is becoming your responsibility to own your emanations on a new level. We've talked about this before, where you're responsible for what you emanate. But now we perceive you experiencing that responsibility rather than just intellectualizing that responsibility. The way it showed up for Veronica was with this dynamic of her friend that's in the hospital. All of a sudden, she just had a vision of these hubs or circles with spokes coming out of them. And there were circles and spokes and circles and spokes. You know, you can imagine that. You've all played with Tinker Toys. Out they go. And she saw the one that was her friend going dark. And she could see that darkness going into these different places. Now, the darkness didn't represent dark energy or negative or evil or any of that. It recognized the idea that that person being removed from the dynamic of the community left a spot. It left an impact. It left a hole. It changed the other connections. And in some cases, it creates new ones. In other cases, it severs connections or distances connections. And starting to have a perception of that was beyond the intellectual and into the experienced is one of the ways you live from your soul's perspective. And that's true about everything. It's obviously more dynamic when it has to do with someone who may be leaving the body. But it's also very profound in many other ways. How you act based on stimulus. Whatever that stimulus is, you know. Another way that we're seeing the living from the soul's perspective showing up is the idea that you have lost your fascination with habit. You know, it just becomes boring. Veronica's new favorite word is, it's tedious. It becomes tedious to engage. It becomes tedious to dance with the habits. It becomes tedious to allow habitual fears access to your mentation. It's just tedious to think about that thing again, right? That problem again. Am I going to think about that another time? And at some point you just say, because you're having access to this expanded state, you say, God, there's so much more to think about. There's so much more to experience. There's so much more to interact with that if I only repeat this mental pattern, you know, that hamster wheel mind, you start to see what you're missing out on or that you're passing up in order to habituate into tedium. It's that grander perspective of really seeing how your behavior, how your reactions to stimulus are spreading into your world, and how habitual reactions to stimulus have this very narrow construct that they're allowed to interact with, and how expanded conscious reactions to stimulus go out. Like light, right? Like light shining into the world. We've talked about living from your soul's perspective as having a completely new way of being in the physical form. Last week we talked a lot about your emotional state and how you've yet to really experience the soul's perspective on the emotions, the feelings, the senses of the body, the way the body interacts with the world. Now sometimes when you're in a state of pretty blissy, wow, I'm on vacation, I'm walking on the beach, it's sunny, it's got a little breeze, the spray of the waves is getting me, I'm in love, whatever, you get close. But to just be able to walk from your bed to the toilet and to have that experience become brand new is what we're talking about. That's what we're bringing in, we meaning y'all, are bringing in the experience of living from your soul's perspective from the physical form. Everything starts to become brand new because nothing has ever been experienced in this way. We're going to say that again. Everything becomes brand new because nothing has ever been experienced in this way. It's a bit like saying that you've run around this whole lifetime with the blindfold on and now you've taken it off. And when you take off the blindfold, everything's new. Even little things that you do every day are new because you've never seen them in this way before. So the invitation, as we've extended in the past, but seriously now, really focusing on opening up to seeing things in the new way. Because you have to continue to allow this transformed state presence within your system. Remembering that habit and the biological drive are telling you that change is dangerous. But you've had enough teaching and tools to recognize that when you confront that belief, 99% of the time, you're not in danger. You're actually being offered an opportunity for an expanded experience. And it's up to you to choose that direction. So the choice bit doesn't go away. You are not yet healthy habited into seeing things from your soul's perspective. But you are at a place where the idea of continuing in the habitual reactions, continuing with the hamster wheel mind and the fears that are associated with it, continuing that low vibrational, morbid curiosity about this and that is just, it's no longer as interesting as it used to be. And it's certainly nowhere near as interesting as your soul's perspective is. That's really what June is about. That's really what we're talking about, is bringing that in. And there isn't really a new tool. It's just applying the tools we've been given kind of all at the same time. You know, we've talked about this tool and that tool and this tool, but now it's like, okay, we're going to use all three at the same time. And that is what accesses that transformed place. Consistency and discipline, choosing and choosing again for that state of being that isn't habitual, isn't caught in the old way. And recognizing that if you're not in grace, ease, and bliss, it's still available to you. And if you're in grace, ease, and bliss, you're going to be like, okay, cool. But if you're not living grace, ease, and bliss, you are not, quote, all the way there. But that means it's there for you. And it is your birthright to live in grace, ease, and bliss. It's your birthright as a Homo Spiritus conscious being. And now that you're becoming Homo Spiritus conscious being, the grace, ease, and bliss becomes the state that you experience. So, grace, ease, and bliss does not mean you don't ever spill the orange juice again. Grace, ease, and bliss means that even spilling the orange juice can be experienced from your soul's perspective as fabulous. And imagine if something like, you know, as sticky and awkward and messy and God, now we have to go to the grocery store again, kind of a thing, as spilling the orange juice can become awesome, fabulous, teach you an enormous amount. What does something like walking on the beach or making love or eating a meal that you enjoy or laughing with friends become? And that's where we are now. And that's the invitation. And there's nothing else to do but commit. That extra step of commit. Commit to the truth of you. Commit to the birthright. And don't let any of your morbid curiosity about habit trip you up. You know where that road leads. You've all lived it. And that road doesn't satisfy you. It doesn't satisfy you at all. Or you wouldn't be sitting here tonight.